welcome to this explainer. You know, a single powerful philosophical spark in 18th century Europe didn't just stay trapped in a few dusty old books. It actually triggered a massive global domino effect that completely rewired the world as we know it today. Think about this for a second. When you look at your own American democratic system right now, the voting, your rights, the whole structure of our government, where did those ideas actually come from? I mean, they certainly didn't just appear out of thin air in 1776, right? There is a deeply rooted origin story to the very freedoms built right into your own backyard. Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine a giant line of dominoes stretching across entire continents. One specific era of radical ideas became the finger that tipped the very first block, launching this completely unstoppable wave that toppled traditional authority all across the globe. Section 1. The Spark, 18th Century Europe. So this initial spark, that was the Enlightenment. For absolute centuries, the divine right of kings meant unquestioned, total rule. You just didn't argue with it. But suddenly, thinkers pivoted. They started arguing that, hey, we should actually use reason and science to understand our world, and more importantly, apply those exact same tools to redesign government and define human rights. It was a total game changer. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that these three idea architects basically drafted the blueprints for modern government. You've got John Locke, who argued for natural rights, life, liberty, and property. Then there's Montesquieu, who pitched the separation of powers, so no single person could become a tyrant. And finally, Rousseau championed the social contract, which is the radical idea that governments only have the right to rule by the consent of the people. As you can guess, this created massive friction. On one side, you have kings who had held unquestioned power for hundreds of years. On the other side, a public suddenly armed with serious intellectual ammunition. Locke, Montesquieu, and Rousseau weren't just writing books. They were literally giving everyday people the vocabulary to stand up and demand a voice. Section 2. The first domino. The American experiment. For you students here in the US, this is where your history comes into play. The American Revolution was literally the Enlightenment in action. The founders didn't just reject a king. They took those exact European blueprints we just talked about and built a brand new nation. When Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, he was directly channeling John Locke's ideas of natural rights. Section 3. The French upheaval. So the spark bounces right back across the Atlantic. But if the American Revolution was kind of a testing ground, the French Revolution was a violent, seismic collapse. Citizens aggressively toppled a monarchy that had ruled for generations. They were demanding the exact equality that the Enlightenment had promised them. And honestly, nothing captures this quite like the storming of the Bastille in 1789. Picture the explosive physical action here. This wasn't some polite parliamentary debate. Thousands of angry citizens physically tore apart a massive stone prison that stood as the ultimate looming symbol of royal tyranny. Out of all that rubble came the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Much like the American Declaration of Independence, it is completely packed with the core concepts of Locke and Rousseau. It formally stated, for all to see, that every single citizen possesses undeniable, unalienable rights. But we do have to mention the flip side. Massive upheavals often leave a really dangerous power vacuum. The chaotic collapse of traditional France eventually paved the way for Napoleon Bonaparte. It's a stark historical lesson for us. Sometimes, the violent pursuit of freedom can actually clear the path for a brand new kind of military dictator. Section 4. Latin American Liberation. This revolutionary spirit simply couldn't be contained, and it swept right on down to Latin America. Right at the center of this was Simón Bolívar. Known as El Libertador, Bolívar had actually read the Enlightenment thinkers and witnessed the American and French revolutions firsthand. He became the crucial driving force to liberate an entire continent. Bolívar and his allies successfully dismantled centuries of European colonial rule in South America. They proved once and for all that the demand for self-governance wasn't just some localized phenomenon in Europe or North America. It was a truly universal human desire. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole picture. It's a perfect, unbroken historical chain reaction. The ideas born in the European Enlightenment are first tested during American independence, which triggers the French upheaval and cascades directly into Latin American liberation. Literally, one domino striking the next all across the globe. Section 5. The modern democratic legacy. So, what does this all mean for us? The Enlightenment didn't stay trapped in the 18th century. Those original blueprints drafted by Locke, Montesquieu, and Rousseau, they are the foundation of the house you live in today. They defined the human rights we fiercely protect and literally structured the modern American democracy you participate in right this very second. So I'll leave you with this to think about. The next time you look at the news, a local election, or even the laws in your own community, which of those 18th century Enlightenment ideas do you see most actively shaping your life today?